Let's start with brutal honesty here. Self-care conversations used to annoy me because they sounded frivolous to me. I was conditioned to think of them as superfluous or only for certain people. I didn't understand them, and I wasn't raised to see the value in self-care or to really even know what that means. And now, as a woman business owner, I'm in a world where that term is everywhere I look, and every coach seems to promote it. While that shouldn't technically be a problem, because I get why they're doing it, it is. Because, like a song with too much radio play, that kind of frequency encourages you to tune it out, And self-care is too important to tune out. So trust me when I say I get it if you're thinking, oh great, another podcast episode about self-care. And believe me when I say that's exactly why today's conversation is going to be different. You're listening to the Positively Living Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Zawrotny, founder of Positively Productive Systems and a coach certified in time and stress management, helping clients make space for what matters most in their lives. Join me each episode and we'll talk about decluttering, stress management, habits, personalized productivity, gratitude, and so much more. I understand the overwhelm of life because I'm a wife, mom to kids and cats, and a former caregiver. I'm here to help you choose what's right for you so you can do less, live more, and breathe easier. Sound good? Let's get to it. Today I'm talking with Stacie Walker about how self-care isn't simply a luxury or pampering, but rather a critical business strategy. Stacie helps online coaches, consultants, healers, and service providers accelerate their business growth to consistently attract their dream clients and generate cash flow. Nothing makes Stacie happier than seeing the people she works with design an incredible life doing what they love. Best of all, they can do it in a way that's aligned with their mission, vision, and personality. Stacie's expertise and life experiences have been showcased in the Huffington Post, Thrive Global, Voyage Denver, Ambitious Entrepreneur Network, Funnel Magazine, Women on Business, Evan Carmichael, and Morpheus, just to name a few. Stacie and I dig in deep today and talk about what self-care really means, distinguishing pampering from true self-care. The way we nourish the mind, body, and spirit in order to show up optimally. True self-care is essential for living our best lives, and especially important when you add on a business. We talk about how alignment plays a big part in how we achieve our goals, and how we need to ask for help and seek support, which is to me another kind of self-care. Stacie covers so much ground, giving specific, actionable steps to include self-care as a strategy in your life. We also talk about productivity and habits, which along with self-care, are a few of my favorite things. Also for fun, you can hear me stumble repeatedly over the same word 3 or 4 times, I think, as I share how I know Stacie. It just fits our relationship to have such imperfection included. After all, we don't need to be perfect, and we don't need to break ourselves to be successful. You will quickly realize I adore this woman and am so inspired by what and who she stands for, and how she has gone from almost losing her life to creating one that she absolutely loves, and showing you how you can do the same. Welcome, Stacie Walker, to the Positively Living Podcast.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really, really excited.
Oh, you have no idea. Maybe you do have an idea how excited I am, because you are a very special guest to me. And you were one that I knew that I wanted to have on my show before I had a show. Because you and I have been connecting and collaborating for years now.
Yes.
Ever since you asked for people to interview on your Love Yourself First series. Not easy to say, not always easy to do, but very important. Your Love Yourself, I can't even say it again. Your Love Yourself First series. Oh my gosh. And so that was all about self-care. So I love that we're talking about that today. And,
Yes.
you asked for volunteers. I raised both my hands. I was like, yes, yes, yes. And now I've lost count how many recorded conversations you and I have had. We've collaborated so many different, right? I mean,
At least 7, 8. It's been quite a bit.
right. It's been with the Love Yourself. Love Yourself First series, the Unleash Your Ambition. Oh, that
Uh,
was your mastermind.
mhm.
I mean, it's been so many different conversations, and it's been incredible. And throughout it
Yes.
all, of course, I've had a front row seat in one of my personal favorites, one of the best collaboration groups, free collaboration groups on Facebook, the Elite Society of Ambitious Women.
Thank you. Yes.
But what I
Yes.
want to mention even more so before we get into our conversation is what you may not realize is I credit you in part for me being here behind the
Mm.
mic, interviewing you today, being a host. Because of that first conversation, you showed me how much I love doing this and how powerful collaboration is. So I just wanted to thank you for that and for celebrating it with me now.
Oh, Lisa, I'm so happy that you're doing this. Just think about how many people you're impacting and you're doing something that you love. And I knew that you're made for this because you're a connector. That is your personality. So your podcast is absolutely amazing. And I'm so glad that you've done it. And I mean, it's made for you. Podcasting is made for you. So I'm happy that I reached out and helped you take the leap because that's what I love to do. I love that. I love being the cheerleader. I love connecting. I love collaborating. And I was just like, yes, has Lisa written all over it, all over it.
Yeah, and that is what you do so well. And let's keep going with that. Would you
Yeah.
please share a bit more about who Stacie Walker is, who you help, and really what lights you up?
So Stacie Walker, ha ha ha. Let's see here. Well, I am a mom. I have a 21-year-old, a 4-year-old. I live in Colorado. I have 2 dogs, a cat, and I've had my business since 2008. I started literally on bed rest, built my business to the ground up on bed rest, and have been on this journey since then. I never thought or planned in a million years I would be where I am today. Today I help coaches, consultants, and healers attract their dream clients and make consistent cash flow 365 days of the year through a framework called the Attract, Engage, and Profit framework. It's a foundational system to help you put together a marketing strategy and system and a sales strategy and system in a way that's aligned with your mission, vision, and personalities, because I'm all about people being able to use their brilliance and being able to use their uniqueness to be able to build incredible businesses and brands and be able to make an impact in people's lives using their unique gifts in their own unique way.
Yeah, and I love that the word aligned. I know we hear it, but really it has meaning. I know it has meaning to me, and it's something that you have coached and you have really encouraged in me. And I know that's something you love to encourage in everyone. You talk about building the life you love.
Yes.
And living a life you love. And how precious is that? I feel so often like we are told that's just not an option. You have to suffer through it. And I love that you're out there saying, wait a minute, there's a way, and you're showing people that way. And you know that when we've talked about productivity, there's so much that connects in that when you are aligned and when you're doing what you love and you're passionate about, you connect to that energy to make things happen and you become more productive. It just all works.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And what I love about the work that you do is that you keep things simple. You keep things simple because us as human beings, we like to complicate things. So, I mean, even when you have like the whole roadmap, you still want to complicate it because it's like, it seems too easy. It's not complicated enough. So I think that plays a role into like so many people thinking they cannot design their own incredible life, like doing whatever they want. Like, I believe that anyone can create whatever life that they want for themselves, whatever business they want for themselves, if they want to build a business. Not everybody wants to do it, which is fine. But I think we just, from culture and of course educational system, just all of these different influences have actually contributed to us thinking that certain things are off limits.
Mm.
Uh, Thinking that it's ridiculous for us to dream, thinking that it's ridiculous for us to say, you know what, I want to be a millionaire so I can help communities. I can be able to, buy some land and create a compound for, I don't know, children. And like, those seem like the big dreams and seems out of the ordinary for most people, that so many people shut it down. They
Yeah.
shut it down. Either it's their friends or family or whoever's shutting it down, and then they're shutting down themselves. Like, that's not possible for me. And it's like, yes, it's possible. Of course it's possible. But first of all, you have to believe it's possible. And second of all, you need to get clear on what it is you exactly want. And then we can go from there. No, it's not going to happen overnight. But the thing is that belief in the clarity will definitely put you in the right direction, and you don't have to know all the answers. And I know, like with you, like with how you work with your clients, it's like the same thing. It's like you need clarity. There's the belief in clarity, right?
Mhm.
And then that way they get pointed in the right direction, so they can be like, okay, this is something that I can do,
That's
right?
right. Yeah. And what you're talking about in terms of being shut down a lot of times, it's so true that we have these conversations. And I think many times it's well meaning. I just had a great conversation about this.
Mhm.
Even our own brains do this to us. They're well meaning brains where they're like, wait a minute, be careful, caution,
Mhm.
danger, danger, Will Robin. Our brains want to keep us from doing something crazy and new. And it takes some time and effort and determination and connecting with our passion and finding that alignment in order to say, okay, no, wait a minute, this is possible. And the brilliance with any of that, like what you do or what I do, is that when there's that acceptance,
Right,
then
right.
the brain will be like, oh, all right, well, then it could look like this. So
Hmm.
lest we get too far in advance, it's like, just start by telling me what kind of life you want to live, or how you want to, what kind of person you want to be. And then we build the habits around that, or we do
Hmm.
the things, that need to be done. If you want to build a business like you help people do, it's like, there's so many components to that in I think first taking care of ourselves, which is, an excellent segue to this idea, which I absolutely loved, of saying our topic today is self-care as a business strategy. And keep in mind, even if you're not developing a business, when you look at life as a business, when we do a kind of a cross-training idea that we're raising our children and we're running our house, but we run it like a business. Or we think about our business and we think about, the connection and the love and the passion that we have in family, and we bring that in. I think they belong in both places.
I
So
agree
this
with you.
is right. This is very beneficial for both. So self-care as a business strategy. I'm like, yeah, this is brilliant. This is exactly what Stacie and I need to talk about, since we've talked about self-care so many times. So I would love to start with the idea of self-care, which of course we hear over and over and over again, almost to the point where we're tuning it out now, or being like, I don't have time for that. Would you please share, first of all, like define it for yourself, what it means to you?
Absolutely. So that's a great question, because I know self-care can mean different things for different people. And the way that I'm defining self-care, what it's not, I'm not talking about the manicures, pedicures,
Mhm.
getting the hair done. That's more pampering and treating yourself now. Self-care has to do with making sure that your mind, your body, your spirit, soul, are all aligned. They're at optimal rate, because as moms, as wives, as women who are taking care of their family, not just kids, but other family members, building their businesses, so many hats. I know there's a lot of women that work 9 to 5s, and building their businesses, and so many things, so many things. So here's the thing, like when it comes to self-care, if we are not optimal when it comes to our body, our mind, our spirit, guess what? Things start falling apart. We start falling apart, literally. Um, we're not happy. Relationships can get ruined. Uh, we don't achieve our goals faster because we can't think straight, or things just seem more difficult than what they need to be, and it's usually because you haven't been practicing self-care.
Mm.
And I can definitely share, a few examples later about that. So I think, first of all, self-care is essential. Self-care should be a priority. Self-care is just like you eating food every day and drinking water. I mean, it's something that we have to do, and we are already doing it to an extent on a unconscious level, because our body on a subconscious level has to, it shut us down if we got to sleep, right? If we need to eat and we don't get enough sugar, we're gonna fall out, right?
Yeah.
So we're doing self-care to an extent, but there's this place to where we can get to a point where we start putting self-care on the back burner for too long and too much, that things start falling apart. So I like the idea of being able to look at self-care as a strategy, just like how I run my business, just how I run my household, my finances, because once you change your perspective around it not being a nice to do, or I don't have time for it, it's like, no, this is like a non-negotiable, because it affects everything else. It affects everything else. Everything. For example, before I really started practicing self-care, I was working at least 70, 80 hours a week. This is before my 4-year-old was born. I was working at least 80 hours a week. My oldest was in high school, so I was taking him to school, doing the mom stuff with the high schooler was just crazy. And then I was taking him to the house. I was running a business. And guess what? I wasn't eating right. I was consuming sugar all day. I wasn't sleeping right because I was too focused on work. I mean, I had tunnel vision because I absolutely love what I do, that it can get to a line that's crossed to where it becomes very unhealthy and seems obsessive, which, yeah, a lot of driven people are like that. However, like, things started falling apart. My food, my relationship with my son, even though I work at home, they're physically there. My family's physically there. I'm physically there, but mentally I wasn't. I wasn't intimate with my husband, because I was too busy, or I'd go to sleep way after he did, or he'd be waking up and I'd be going to sleep. So there was like, it was touch and go with that. My business is falling apart because I was not rested. I just did not feel like myself. Like looking back, it's like I was a totally different person. I don't even know who that person was, but it was like, who that person was, it was awful. I wasn't active. I mean, it was just awful, to the point to where I made the decision to step away from my business for a year. It ended up being 2 because I got pregnant, but it became that bad. And I have a small liver that has to work harder. And I already shared that I almost died, when I started my business. I was on bed rest. Well, I started feeling like I did when I started my health was feeling back in 2008. That feeling of death was familiar to me. And that's when I was like, you know what? My business is great. I hit 6 figures, but it's no good if I'm dead.
No.
No good. And I know we don't always think that can happen, but we're mortal, right? Our bodies are very delicate. Very delicate. And being able to make that decision, it was the hardest decision of my life, but I'm glad that I did it, because I came back to my business. I came back anew with a new baby and a new life on a new foot and a new journey and outlook. And I promised myself I would never, ever, ever, ever put my self-care on the back burner, and that's priority. Like, of course I use calendars. to schedule everything because I'm terrible with remembering stuff. I'm terrible with remembering what like day it is really. Like if it's not in my calendar, I'm not going to do it because I don't have the bandwidth and space in my head to remember it. So it needs to be in my calendar. So I decided a long time ago that not only was I going to make it a priority for me, but I was also going to teach it to my clients because I work with a lot of driven women. So I'm like, self-care needs to go first in the calendar. It has to go first. So I'm sure some of the listeners might be wondering, okay, well, what does that look like, Stacie? What goes in the calendar? Well, first of all, Lisa already mentioned that I always talk about us designing our incredible lives and designing our incredible business. Well, we need to start actually living that incredible life and business right now. It can't be some far off place, because every time we make it a far off place, it's never going to happen. It will never happen. So you literally have to embody and start taking action as if you are already living your incredible life. So what does that look like, right? And it doesn't have to be forever. Yes, Lisa, you also mentioned that your mind's going to bite you on this. One of the things that I tell my clients, and I failed at this for about a year until I finally got it. First thing I tell them is, okay, you need to choose 2 days that you're going to be off from business, no checking the email, no doing work, away from the computer, away from the technology, away from it, so you can live your incredible life. And there's so much resistance. I can't do this because I need to make money, I need to work, or I got this lunch going on. All of these things start coming up, and I tell them with warning, I know this is going to happen because it happened to me. Like, you think like the world's going to fall apart because you took 2 days off in a week. Well, I'm like, okay, how about this? Like, you're creating space, you're just planning, you're just putting things in a calendar, you're already freaking out. Right? So that's what
That's awesome. Yes,
I know.
yes.
It's like you're
This is familiar, right? Yeah. Okay, everybody raise your hand if you felt that. Sure, Yep.
Right. I mean, but this is like typical human behavior. Like, so they're already freaking out. And like I said, it was the same thing with me because I had the same conversations going on in my head. I can't do that. I need to make money this day, or I got this lunch going on, or I'm behind, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, just put the space in the calendar. That's all you're doing right now. Just put the space. So that's what we do. That's one of the first things that we do is we create the space for what days. So I'm like, okay, what days would you like to commit to for the first 30 days? Eventually, I like them to stretch it out for 90 days because I want it to become a habit. I want it to become solid, right? So my days are Sunday and Wednesday. Now, like I mentioned, it took a while for me to finally get away from almost a year, like 100%. So what I learned from that is that I need to make sure that I plan stuff on those days to where I cannot work. So whether that's spending time with myself, my family, usually I like to spend time with my family. On my days off, like we will literally go somewhere. We'll go to the mountains and go camping. So that's what we do. That's what I do on Sundays and Wednesdays. And then here's another thing, and I know some of y'all are going to really freak out about this.
Brace yourselves.
There's a week every month that you take off, along with the 2 days a week. Now, this is where people were losing their heads. They were losing it with this one, losing it, because it's so darn uncomfortable. Yep. So darn uncomfortable. But I was like, look, this is your week to refresh yourself, to reflect, reflect, imagine, to live your incredible life. And here's the thing about this is that we think that we have to do everything by ourselves. So one of the things I always say is that you need to ask for help. You need to get help. You need to invest in help, whether you do it with money or with bartering, or you involve some of your family and friends who really care about you and support you and will help you. So that's the first thing that goes into my client's calendar before we even talk about business, and what they're going to do. Right. And And people fight me on this for a long time. Like, I always expect it. I know it's going to happen,
Right.
because
It's
habits.
uncomfortable. It's not
Yeah. Yeah.
the norm. It's not what we're used to. It's not what society says we should do. Let's go back to that
Hmm.
thing where you were talking about always wanting it to be more complicated. We put value on what appears to be more complicated. Oh, you're running a business. It's got to be difficult, right? You got to
Yeah.
run yourself into the ground, right? You can sleep when you're dead, right? I mean, it's this whole host of things. And of course, I live for saying, stop, wait, no. Think
Yes,
again. And so
exactly.
what you're saying is, no, it's a strategy now. And what I love about this idea of strategies, there's purpose and there's leveraging. Some of the things you said in there, okay, so if someone's listening and going, oh, I couldn't possibly. Okay, well, first of all, couldn't possibly is the first objection your brain is going to give you
Yep.
because you're not used to it and you can't see it yet.
Yeah.
But stay open to the possibility, because the more curious we are about, well, what kind of benefit would this have for us? How would that work? If we stay curious, then our brains will get really good at saying, well, it could work this way. But something in that description that you said that I really like is, for example, with that week that you're resting and you're reflecting. One of my favorite things to do when I take that time off, when I'm not working in my business, is sort of working on my business from the standpoint that I get to journal about it. I get to think about maybe what the what's next is, or I'm reminding myself of my mission, or I'm sitting somewhere in that moment and that feeling and that energy of what I'm loving and
Yes.
why it's so good. Maybe I'm celebrating. That's something we don't do
Yes.
often enough, is celebrating what's been working. And the
Yes.
other thing that you are, there's this idea sometimes when we have downtime, or we create buffers or margins or whatever, if, as you will, in whatever capacity in our lives, that it's somehow, quote, doing nothing.
Mm,
But it's not nothing. It's something
exactly.
very, very important that's happening. So I would suggest take a look at what is happening during that time. When we work out, we're told to have rest days. And those rest days are not, you're not working out. No, those rest days are what are called recovery days.
Hmm.
So now we're getting right back into the strategy of self-care, that there's an opportunity. There's so many good books out there. Deep Work by Cal Newport, things where it's like when you quiet, when you step away, like what you're talking about, that's where you have this opportunity to create. When
Yes.
your brain quiets, in the quiet is where all of these ahas can come from. And when you're frustrated and you're trying to get something done and it's just not working for you, or you're having writer's block, or something just really frustrating, what's the first thing that's suggested? Step away. And
Mm-hmm.
you're saying strategically make a point to step away.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that, you're doing this when you do it purposefully, like you're talking about, and scheduling. You're not saying, oh, you're just going to stop and now everything's going to go all to hell.
Oh no.
No, you're saying, well, if Monday through Thursday are my days, then that's when I'll need to get these things done.
Hmm.
And then Friday, I'll let it go. And then Saturday I can check back in. Or maybe it's like, well, if you are saying, well, I can't step away because of these reasons, then that gives you an opportunity to say, well, what is it that I'm doing? Am I doing too much? Is it busy work? Could I maybe systematize it better? Is there some
Yes.
way to automate it, to delegate it? Again, getting curious about how could I change that up? And I love that you challenge them to do that first. It reminds me so much of the story about the jar with the rocks and the pebbles and
Mm.
the sand and the
Hmm.
water, and making sure the rocks, which are those most important things, you got to get in there first. That
Yes.
self-care is one of them. And I want to go back to something else
Yeah.
that you said. I want to bring back the word optimal. I love that word. Of course, being a productivity coach, why wouldn't I love it? But it truly, okay. And anybody who loves Atomic Habits by James Clear, that's a super popular book right now with good reason. And to
Mm.
me, it's an amalgam of all the really good habits books and concepts out there from people like Charles Duhigg. All of that comes together to tell you, make it simple, make it consistent, try it. So if 2 days a week's freaking you out right now, do one,
Mm.
right? Okay. And when you say optimal, optimal means how do you work best? You're getting curious and
Yes.
being self-aware as to how you work best? What do you need? And that goes back to, we've discussed this so many times with self-care. It's, yeah, okay, pedicures, I do work best with a pedicure, but but also too, what you talked about, the mind and body and your spirit, your soul, when you're nourishing each of those things properly. And it can be very obvious, like you said, when you're hungry, that's obvious. And I get hangry. I don't know
Yeah.
about anybody else, okay. And when you are really, really tired, and you get sleep deprived, man, we don't show up our best. So
No.
those are obvious, but I like that you're stretching it further to say it's even more than that. It's take that. Those are examples. Those are obvious, tangible examples, but step even further. Maybe it's discovering what kinds of foods you run on best.
Yeah.
Right?
And what hours are you the most productive? I
That's
know
right.
me, like for the longest time, I did not get this because I was not aware. I wasn't really paying attention.
Right.
Um, Mornings, even though I don't really like being up in the mornings, but I'm optimal. But right when it gets to 2 o'clock,
Mm-hmm.
things start going downhill. So I have to make sure that I don't schedule my client calls, late in the day, because I'm not going to be any good to them, because my job, my goal, what I want to do is help them at my best, not at my
Yes.
worst, not at my worst or not at my okay. And we also, if we work at our optimal rate, at our optimal level, we work faster, we problem solve faster,
We do.
we're happier. Um, Things flow so much better. You have energy, right? And that affects other people around you, whether you realize it or not. I know when I am tired or hangry, people in my house kind of stay away from me. So I'm like, dang, if I'm giving off that energy with them, I wonder how it is when I'm online and working. It affects everything. So being able to actually have designated days off does allow you to really think about what you're doing, because what most people learn when they start implementing the self-care strategy of having these designated days off, they start paying attention to what they're doing.
Yeah.
They really pay attention. So a lot of them realize that they're doing a lot of busy work.
Yeah.
They're doing a lot of things that they don't even need to be doing, which is what I'm trying to condition them to do. It's like conditioning them, like an athlete. I
Mm-hmm.
condition them so they can start putting systems, whether it's tools or people, in place to handle some of the work, because we tend to forget when I know, as independent, motivated, driven women who are used to pretty much so nurturing and handling things. We're so used to doing it all.
Yeah.
And the thing is that we're not supposed to be doing it all when we're building a business. We're building a business. A business, we're not our business. We have a relationship with our business. For the longest time, I thought I was my business because it's Stacie Media, and I'm the spokesperson for my business. I'm the creator of my products and programs for my business, but I'm not my business. My business is an entity of itself, and I need to have a good relationship with it, just like it's my second husband. I could call it my second husband, right? So if you look at it this way, it's like, okay, well, what does your business need if it was a person, as if you're in a relationship with your business? Well, it needs to be nurtured. It needs to be cared for. It needs to be optimal too, right?
Yeah.
Not just you, but your business needs to be optimal. So it needs other things like tools or people involved to help it run. And also, we aren't good at everything. I mean, I'm a smart gal, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm done with a lot of stuff, and I'm okay with saying that.
Even more important, because you really are. You are very intelligent, okay? And I feel like I'm no slouch when it comes to making things happen, but there's a really important key to this, in that it's not always that we can do it, but whether it's best that we do it. And
Yes,
I don't want to
that.
use the word should, okay? I don't like that word,
Right.
but
I
that it's
know.
best that we do it. And here's why, because it goes back to that, what you're talking about with the energy, how we're showing up and how much more efficient and productive we can be when we're properly rested and we're working optimally. Well, a big part of that, I mean, there's a whole list of things that you can look at. And that's, how I coach people to say, how can you be most productive and show up to do less and live more, right? Well,
Exactly.
that's
Yes.
looking at all these different options of, well, is this something someone else could do? First thing I ever delegated in my business was the money stuff, the bookkeeping. Can I figure it out? Yes. Do I want to? Oh, hell no. But here's the thing, when you feel that way, when you say, here's a task to do, Stacie, and then what's something that you do not like? Something.
Emails. I don't
Okay.
like corresponding with people.
There you go. That, it's like, oh, so Stacie, how about those emails? And like, how do you feel? You're me. Oh yeah. You can't see it, but I got this face made at me, right? Okay. So how likely is it that you're going to get that task done?
I will probably say that I have important housework to do and that I'll get to it later.
Yeah, I got a root
That's what I
canal.
do.
I got to go.
Yeah.
I got a thing, right? Okay. I don't know where I came up with the phrase slim to none, and Slim just left the building. But, it's like, yeah, exactly. So that's another part of considering how we can be more productive is finding the things. And then again, you don't always have to hire someone. Sometimes we can automate things by virtue of systems, technology that's out there. Or like you said too, when we start to collaborate and connect and barter. And most importantly, and I think this is a great place to land for our wrap up, is to ask for that help and to know we don't have to do it alone, right?
That number one right there. I can't even get all my words out, but that right there.
Yeah.
That's it. We have to ask for help. Does not mean that it's a weakness.
Mm-mm.
It does not mean that you're not smart. It does not mean that you're doing anything wrong. It's just that you are building a business. Your business is something that's going to grow faster than what you can ever imagine. It's bigger than you. It's bigger than you, even though you might not think that right now, but it is. Look at these big corporations. Your business could get big like that if you wanted to. It depends on how big you're dreaming, really. But the thing is, even if you're not trying to shoot for $1 million business, you still need help, because guess what? There's only one of you.
Yeah.
There's only one of you. Just like when, for us moms, that saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Same thing with a business. Exact same thing, no different. And until I finally got that, that's when things really started changing. That's when things started getting fun and interesting. So I guess what I have to say is, like, don't look at your self-care, which is your time off. Don't look at it as a luxury. Don't look at it as something that you can put off. Look at it as something that's a non-negotiable, and that you must do it like your life depends on it, because it does. It really does.
Yes. And I'm going to pull that quote out and plaster it everywhere. Don't look at it like it's a non-negotiable. Look at self-care. Be strategic. Be intentional about it. Do it as if your life depends on it, because it does. You are precious to us, and we encourage you to keep looking out for you. Oh, perfect. Okay. So it is time to wrap this up with a little fun and a little bit more inspiration. Our conversation is oozing with inspiration already.
Yeah.
But let's start with the song that always makes me dance is...
The song that always makes me dance. Okay, so I listen to third world music, or world music. Kaya Project. It's, oh my goodness, it's called Atlantio Pacifico. I'll send it to you, but it's a great song. It's like, it makes me feel good no matter what mood I'm in. I pop that in and just start moving. Moving around.
And let me tell you, that's self-care right there, everyone.
Yes.
So that's good. Okay, wonderful. So the quote or mantra I share most often or go to the most is...
that you can design an incredible, beautiful life doing what you love.
Amen to that. Okay. And let's end with, it's ending and beginning of what or whom are you grateful for today, Stacie?
What I'm grateful for is that I've been able to be featured on this podcast today. And you said what? And
or whom?
oh,
It's
and
all
whom?
good.
Oh, and whom?
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for you because, you've been a part of my entrepreneurial journey. We've been connected for some time, and I'm really grateful for that because it's hard for me to connect with people, and it's just, I shouldn't say hard. I'm very selective, I guess I should say. Very selective about who I build relationships with. So I'm just so grateful that you came into my life at the right time. Like it was divine timing, and I'm grateful for that. So
Oh goodness. I'm honestly, I know I joke a lot, but truly, I'm so grateful for you as well. And as I said, you are a big part of how I'm here today. And if nothing else, let that be a takeaway today of how powerfully we can show up and inspire others. And so when you take care of yourself, you can give that gift. And I think that's so beautiful. So last but definitely not least, please tell us where we can find you online, the Facebook group and other places where we can find out all about you, because I know people are going to want to connect with you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. So you can find me at staciewalker.com. That's STACIEWALKER.com. And I usually like to socialize in my Facebook group, Elite Society of Ambitious Women community. Great community, tight knit. I am always encouraging collaboration and the women connecting in there. It's not one big old billboard. I do weekly trainings on marketing every week, and also I also invite people to be a part of collaboration projects that I host during the year. And it's just a safe container for you to be supported, like truly supported, especially if you're not getting that support from the people that you love. I know they love you, and they may say things that hurt you, but of course they're just trying to protect you, just like Lisa mentioned earlier. But yeah, you're more than welcome to come into the community, check it out, see if it's a good fit for you. If not, that's okay, but at least you gave it a shot.
Right.
And yeah, I guess that's it. Facebook group and my website, and I look forward to connecting with those of you who are looking to connect with me.
Wonderful. I will definitely have all the links necessary in the show notes, so you can find Stacie. You can come join us online. You can come join us in the Facebook group. I'm in there. I don't know if that's going to be like a draw or not. But
well, yeah, we can have one big old party in there.
Absolutely. But come in and say hi and check it out. And again, it's all about making choices and being intentional. So find what fits for you, but find what works for sure. And one of the best ways is to go take a look. So we would love to have you there. All right. Thank you so much, Stacie, for shining your light and for sharing it with us. I appreciate you so.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's been great.
Self-care is never a selfish act. It is simply good stewardship of the only gift I have, the gift I was put on earth to offer to others. Parker Palmer. Thank you for joining me on the Positively Living podcast. Your time is precious, and I'm honored you chose to spend it with me. If you'd like more information on today's show, you can find a link to the show notes on positivelyproductive.com/podcast. If you found value in this show, please click subscribe, and even better, give a quick review on iTunes. It supports me and will help others find the show. If you'd like more positive content, come join me on social media. Positively Productive on Facebook and positively_Lisa on Instagram. Get ready for kids, cats, and all my quirky humor over there. I look forward to having you join me next episode. Until then, keep it positive and keep making space for what matters most.